where I think it was close to 600 people were arrested. And these are your grandmothers, the blind people. There was people in mobility scooters, and a clergy, nurses, former doctors, whatever. And that imagery is very depressing, and it is an embarrassment to the government. And the UK government, unfortunately, they do the bidding of the Israeli Zionist entity anyway.
Hello and welcome, I'm Osama Nazal. Today we are joined by John Harrison, a longtime activist and advocate for Palestinians' rights, to discuss the current state of public support for Gaza and Palestine in the UK and across Europe. With decades of experience organizing solidarity campaigns, John has witnessed firsthand both of the challenges and the resilience of movements pushing for justice in Palestine. In this interview, we explore recent developments, the response of authorities, and the future of international solidarity. Wonderful to have you on our program, Mr. John.
Wonderful, Sama. Thank you very much. Shukran.
John, how did you watch the experience that the activists of the last flotilla have gone through in Israeli detention, and when the Israeli Minister of Home Security, Benny Gvir, intruded into their cells and tried to insult and reproach them?
I think it was quite insulting to everybody, and we don't expect much better from Ben Gvir. He's not somebody that's known for his humanitarian side, that's for sure, and trying to antagonize, and especially the treatment of the bravery of young Greta Thunberg in trying to humiliate her. But they just humiliate themselves on the world stage when they do this to the activists, because people around the world are looking at the bravery of these people that have taken the time out of their lives to spend weeks on end at sea, facing loads of challenges, and just to go and stand in solidarity with Palestine and with bringing some aid. And it has really actually galvanized the worldwide support for Gaza and for the flotillas. And everybody involved in the flotillas, whether they were on the ships or the organizing or in the backroom teams, they can hold their heads very high for an incredible job well done.
Yeah, and how do you see the impact of this initiative, the flotilla, in terms of drawing world's attention towards the catastrophe and the ordeal of the Palestinian people, and its impact on the Israeli occupation itself?
You see, there's very little that, as activists, there's very little that we can do in terms of trying to get to Gaza. We've seen it recently they tried to do the march, from Cairo. People wanted to try and get across the Sinai. That was stopped, so it was. So the flotilla has been an avenue and a vehicle where people can, from anywhere in the world, that have signed up and have willing to give their time to do it. So while we have mass protests around the world where millions of people have been protesting over the past 2 years, trying to get on a flotilla, it's not easy. It's a lot of work, but it is an incredible act of solidarity. And I know from watching the footage and the interviews coming out of Gaza, what it meant to people in Gaza to see people, try, and they were within spitting distance when you think of it, how close they did get to Gaza.
Yeah, and some people see that Israel won the battle but lost the war because of its image and reputation now worldwide, as the public opinion is shifting around Europe and the Western countries in general. The Israeli crimes are seen and criticized, and the Israeli officials and all their supporters are seen as non grata persona these days. What's your take on that?
Oh, absolutely. You look around the world and, you're seeing footage of, countries that just don't want them. Their behavior when they are traveling. I know myself from various backpacking exercises in South America and across Asia, their behavior leaves a lot to be desired for. And this is long before any of the attacks on Gaza. And, they're just going to find it difficult to travel again. And, anybody with a human heart and has been watching what has been going on in the last 2 years, or anybody that's been following for years before that, or indeed anybody that's been old enough to remember the last near 80 years, they have seen just the true face of the Israeli regime and the Zionist entity, and it's not good. Their popularity is on the ground, and quite rightly, they should be persona non grata anywhere they travel, and especially anybody that has taken part in the occupation of Gaza and taken part in the genocide.
Yeah, and we know that the international protests get at the peak when there are massacres, when there is genocide war by Israel against the Palestinians. But when this war is over and when these massacres stop, the situation returns to normal. Do you think after these 2 years of genocide and everyday massacres against the Palestinian civilians in Gaza, these protests and this solidarity movement will continue until the Palestinians get their rights? I mean, freedom, justice, independence, dismantling the Zionist apartheid regime.
Absolutely. People can't take their foot off the gas, so to speak. They have got to keep on the streets. They have got to keep marching, and they got to make sure and pressurize their own governments wherever they are to follow through on the promises that they're making, and never to give up justice. And hopefully someday soon that we'll see Israelis in the court at the ICC, and that they face justice. You know, they just cannot get away with this, and we cannot let up. We have to double down and then focus hard on pushing through sanctions, the boycotts, BDS in all the way, and pressure different governments, our own politicians, to stand up to the word. It's no good, being able to shout whenever there's something happening. It's when it's quiet is when you have to shout louder.
Yeah, and how do you see the possibility or the potential for developing the international solidarity movement to be like structured, organized, and to continue its fight for justice for the people of Palestine, just as what happened during the apartheid regime rule in South Africa? Is there a possibility for that, I mean, to keep the momentum of this international movement?
Yeah, we do need to galvanize across different movements, and things like the flotilla there has been good because that has really galvanized everybody around the world. I'm looking at the support levels here in Ireland. There was 15 activists from Ireland on the flotilla. I was following very closely my dear friend Sister Yvonne Ridley and Margaret Pancetta from two Scottish ladies that were on the Libya boat. And there was this incredible act of solidarity right across the world towards them, and everybody was sort of acting as one in terms of following through on, right, we got to contact our politicians, we got to contact the Foreign Office, we got to contact the government. And so going forward, we do need some kind of structure. So, if we can take one thing at a time, I think about it and I call it, if we just keep chipping away at the rock, one day the rock will crumble. So we have to take one fight at a time, galvanize behind it, form a plan, and carry out the plan.
Yeah. And what about the practices and the acts by the police of some countries against these activists and against these protests? Just what we see in the UK, for example, the police campaign against Action for Palestine. How this is going to play into the hand of the Israeli occupation and affect the momentum and the stamina and audacity of the solidarity movement?
I think the British government have made one of the biggest mistakes in recent history in terms of banning Palestine Action, because it has backfired completely on them. When we had to look at the images last Saturday, where I think it was close to 600 people were arrested, and these are your grandmothers, the blind people. There was people in mobility scooters, and clergy, nurses, former doctors, whatever. And that imagery is very depressing, and it is an embarrassment to the government. And the UK government, unfortunately, they do the bidding of the Israeli Zionist entity anyway, and it's looking really bad. And what's going to happen is that their court system is going to get clogged up, and the real work and action that the courts need to be doing won't be able to do so. I'm of the firm belief that the British government are going to have to reverse completely their decision on Palestine action, because it has failed miserably and it has become a complete embarrassment to the current UK government.
Yeah, you following up the Palestinian situation and everything happening in the region. What is your expectation of the current negotiation round in Egypt between Israelis, Palestinians, under the umbrella of the plan presented by the American President Donald Trump?
Well, to start with, I don't trust either Trump or Netanyahu or his two sidekicks that arrived today in Sharm el-Sheikh, in Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Yeah. And I think it's really, really important that the Arab neighbouring countries that are involved in the peace talks do keep that pressure on and hold everybody to account. I know, there was a very, very positive reaction to the Hamas proposals at the weekend. Trump had said, Israel needs to stop the bombing immediately. And we know that hasn't stopped, and in areas it has intensified. Yeah. So they needn't get away with it, and so the pressure has got to be coming from other countries that are stakeholders in the negotiations to Trump. And it's up to Trump to hold the leash on Netanyahu. Unfortunately, you can look both sides. You can look at the positive side of it, and hopefully things will stop and we can get some kind of a break, because they do need the break in Gaza. They need a break from it all. But I'm just got this fear that if the hostages are released and that part of the deal is seen to, that they could renege, and then there's nothing to hold them back anymore for doing what they do.
Yeah, and my final question to you, Mr. John, as a peace and a pro-justice activist, and you have in-depth experience in organizing flotillas supporting the rights of the Palestinian people. So at this critical moment that the Palestinian people are going through, what do you say to the activists around the world whose voices never faded in support of the rights of the Palestinian people against the Israeli genocide?
I think what has happened is I always would say that the blood of the Palestinian in Gaza have flowed to every single corner of the world, and people have woke up. I know loads of people that never were in a demo before, that never cared about anything before, and all of a sudden they're out there, they're campaigning, they're watching everything on social media, and they just want to wrap their arms around Gaza and the Palestinians under occupation and during the genocide in Gaza, and do what we can. And I just hope that going forward that we keep that momentum going. And I know Gaza is it's hell on earth for everybody, and but they do know that they have got some serious support around the world. Unfortunately, it's the governments of the world that have let them down, but the people that stand with them haven't let them down.
It has been a pleasure having you on our program. Thank you very much, John. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Shukran.
Shukran. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. And from Usama Nazal, have a nice time.